Portion of Daytime Tri-Cities is sponsored by AFI, your financial North Star.
Are you aiming at the right target? When you're setting your goals, of course, that is the most important thing. In this week's Making Money Manageable, we talk about that target and how to stay on track. Joining us once again is Peter Raber, president of AFI Advisors. Good morning.
Good morning.
Financial goals, you got to make them.
They're so important. Yes. They really provide a number of things wherever you're going through the financial process. But the things that I find so important is they provide priorities and they provide action steps. So even if the goal isn't fully defined or the goal isn't maybe as lofty, you know, it provides the priority of, yes, let's choose this versus that. Let's do this next step versus that next step. So it's so important to have these goals.
And you know, when we all sit down at some point or other in our lives and start thinking about retirement and making those goals to reach there, how do you make a financial goal like that?
For me and for the people that we work with, I equate it to when, I guess the example that I've used for a lot of people anyway is when we've gone to restaurants with my kids and they always get the map with the goal on the end and they're trying to find their way through it on the kids menu. I always tell them start at the goal and work backwards if you get stuck. So we try to go to the end and figure out what are we trying to accomplish and then figure out the steps along the way. So if that's retiring with a certain amount of income, okay, that means we have to put a certain amount away. Or if that's, I want to buy a house in 12 years, we start with the end big goal and then we figure out all the small goals that are going to get us there.
I think that big question of how much do I need to retire is on a lot of folks' minds these days.
It absolutely is, and there's math behind it, but the problem is it gets scary for a lot of people. And so what we'll do is we'll say, how much do we have now? There's formulas that are out there, you know, might be like 80% of your income is what you need in retirement. Well, we'll figure out that number and we'll talk it through and say, does that sound appropriate? And for certain people it will. For certain other people they'll say, I actually think I'm going to spend more when I retire because I'm going to start traveling because I haven't been able to get away from this office for X number of years and I want to be able to live that way. So it's figuring out the dollar amount and then working back from there of what makes your lifestyle work and what do you want it to look like in retirement.
What are some big mistakes that folks make when they're making their goals and they're planning for retirement?
You know, I think for me the biggest mistake that I see amongst is having too many goals and trying to chase too many things, and a lot of times those come at odds to each other. So if I'm trying to put money away for retirement that I need to save for a long time, but I also kind of want to buy this boat, you know, those are pulling you in opposite directions. The other big mistake that I see people make is making assumptions of what they think will happen 20 years down the road. So it might be, oh, I'm going to get an inheritance from my family and that's going to be my retirement plan. Or I'm expecting my Social Security to be enough to cover what I need in retirement, but then all of a sudden an illness means we have a lot of medical expenses. So making assumptions and not planning for them, you know, I tell a lot of people that are coming into either a large Social Security or an inheritance, that'd be great if it happens. Let's hope it happens. But if it doesn't, let's have a plan in place that takes care of us, you know, either way.
You got to have plan A, B, and C.
Exactly, and be able to navigate back and forth. And if we stay stuck on plan A, even though the world is saying you really should start heading towards B and C, being able to make those pivots along the way. So a plan is just a piece of paper, and then we're going to take as many routes as we need to and course corrections, you know, because if that road's closed, we got to find a way around.
And we talk about age, you know, the earlier you can start, the better, but you need to start no matter where you're at.
No matter where you're at. And so that comes into that plan of how am I going to get there. So if you're 50, 55, 60, you know, looking at retirement in a very short period of time, there's still things that you can do now to make it better. Maybe it's not going to be what you had dreamed about when you were 20 in retirement, but you can definitely make things better if you just make some changes now, even if you've only got a few years, you know, before you're trying to retire.
As with a lot of things in our lives, we got to have goals.
Got to have goals.
All right, Peter Raber, thank you so much for stopping
by
today. Let's give you the information right now. AFI Advisors, they're located right there at 4 Henry Drive in Kingsport. They would love to hear from you. Give them a call. Check out their website as well.
The preceding portion of Daytime Tri-Cities is sponsored by AFI, your financial North Star.